Jerome Powell's latest interview confirms that central banks are starting to FOMO into Bitcoin. But should we trust them? Should we trust these evil bankers who have been lying to our faces for the past multiple years about Bitcoin? And why should we believe and trust them now that they're starting to come around the fact to Bitcoin? Well, don't listen to me. Let's listen to Jerome Powell himself on what he had to say about Bitcoin and their relationship with banks.
Our role with Bitcoin really is to look at, with crypto, really is to look at the banks, and we think it's, banks are perfectly able to serve crypto customers as long as they understand and can manage the risks, and it's safe and sound. As a good number of our banks that we regulate and supervise do that. The threshold has been a little higher for banks engaging in our role.
See, so now he's saying, okay, let's take a step back here. Banks can custody your Bitcoin. And on this news, everybody's saying, hey, jumping for joy. Bitcoin is now jumping up now that, that Jerome Powell says that the banks can custody it for you. The Fed chair said, hey, Bitcoin is perfectly able to be serviced by these banks. Their activities have been, quote, safe and sound. He hinted at a controversy surrounding debanking. That was actually a giant message from Celsius Network not too long ago, was saying, hey, banks are evil. Debank yourself by getting on a Bitcoin standard. A lot of banks have closed your bank accounts. So why are now all of a sudden we going to trust these bankers when it comes to Bitcoin and everything else? The Fed is saying that they can serve their crypto clients if risk is managed adequately. That's a big message here. If risk is managed adequately. So they're still saying, hey, we're going to only keep you as a banking client if we feel like you're doing everything correctly. They think that debanking yourself is a potential risk here. They're saying, hey, we can help service all of your needs, all of your banking needs, and we are the good guys here. We're helping boost the Bitcoin price by saying, hey, the banks can help you out with Bitcoin and can serve, quote, crypto clients. So now Bitcoin sparks 2.7%. And it's all because of Big Daddy Jerome Powell here helping us out. Well, thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. But why is this news coming out now? I did a live stream yesterday, in fact, about the overall, or about the Czech Republic Central Bank looking to potentially bring on Bitcoin as an asset. They wanted to do 5% allocation as the Czech Central Bank. And today they said, hey, that proposal is approved. And now let's start digging into it. So these banks are looking at the writing on the wall here. They are worried about the fact that the narrative is, hey, debank yourself. You can be your own bank. Live on a Bitcoin standard. But no more debanking. The Fed chair says that the U.S. banks are, quote, perfectly able to serve their crypto customers. Well, I mean, many of these banks, including one of the biggest ones in the United States, is JP Morgan. We've had Jamie Dimon be the biggest Bitcoin bear there is, really. He's said nothing but negative things about Bitcoin for the past 4 or 5 years, even going as far as saying it's used for only sex trafficking and criminals. But don't listen to me. Listen to what he says about Bitcoin here.
Get me some of this ETF. Mm-hmm. What are you telling your brokers to tell them back when they make that call?
Yeah. So this is an important thing. This is the last time I've ever talked about this in CNBC. Okay. So help me God. Blockchain is real. It's a technology. We use it. It's going to move money. It's going to move data. It's efficient. We've been talking about that for 12 years too, and it's very small. Okay. So I think we've wasted too many words in that. Cryptocurrencies, there are two types. There's a cryptocurrency which might actually do something. Think of a cryptocurrency as an embedded smart contract in it, and then we can use it, buy and sell real estate and move data. That may have value.
The idea of tokenizing.
Tokenizing things that you do something with. And then there's one which does nothing. I call it the pet rock, the Bitcoin or something like that. And so
So
on the
let's listen to
Bitcoin-
that real
you know,
quick. Bitcoin is the pet rock. Bitcoin is the pet rock. He wouldn't advise his clients to do that. Did you guys notice the price change right here? It's at $42,500 when Jamie Dimon is saying that. And now all of a sudden we need to trust Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan Chase to custody our Bitcoin for us when it's blockchain is a revolution. Everything else is, the potential. Let us utilize our crypto to transact large amounts back and forth between banks. But no, we can custody it for you. Does Jamie Dimon actually understand Bitcoin? I'll let you guys be the judge of that. From me, I don't personally think so. When you hear the words of him saying it, calling it a pet rock. Now let's listen to a little bit more of what he has to say.
There's first of all, and I'm not trying to make a joke here. There are use cases: AML, fraud, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance, sex trafficking. Those are real use cases, and you see it being used for hundreds, maybe 50, $100 billion a year for that. That is the end use case. Everything else is people train among themselves. So
Speculate.
So you see, he's even saying that Bitcoin is for sex trafficking and everything under the sun. That is absolutely negative. But what happened with JP Morgan here? I mean, it's like, watch what they do, not what they say. JP Morgan was sued almost $300 million because of all the Epstein accusers going after him. And in fact, JP Morgan was the banker of Jeffrey Epstein. So with all of this, why should we trust the bankers now that they're saying, hey, Bitcoin is a fraud? Don't listen to everybody else saying, hey, Bitcoin's the best performing asset for the past 15, 16 years. Bitcoin's an absolute fraud. The data shows it fuels crime. Okay. Why would I tell any of my quote customers about Bitcoin if I believe it's truly a fraud? But now we have Jerome Powell openly saying, hey, banks are perfectly able to serve as crypto holders for their clients. We've seen now the Czech National Bank now looking at it's saying, hey, it's, quote, worth considering. The CNB is assessing options for broadening investments, including other assets. So Thursday, that vote passed today, as we had Governor Alice Michelle now the CNBC to assess whether it's been appropriate, and it's all passed here. But on the flip side of things, we have Jamie Dimon calling Bitcoin a fraud and a Ponzi scheme, saying that crypto is hopeless as a currency. But hey, bankers are now okay to hold Bitcoin. So I think this is a sign here that, where we don't necessarily know where Jamie Dimon stands on Bitcoin and crypto. We know that now the central banks are really starting to come towards Bitcoin. Why do you think that is? Because they're realizing that, hey, all of these people, they are losing clients because people are going to, quote, debank themselves. And the Fed and others are looking at this as a negative. They're looking at this as, hey, we cannot have that control anymore if we allow all these people, all the plebs here, all the people in the chat here to live on a Bitcoin standard. Now, we need to get back to taking control and taking ownership because the cryptocurrency adoption is rapid around the globe here, folks. And I think that's what the bankers are now starting to notice. Excuse this over here. I don't want to, go through all the chain analysis stuff. But if you look at India, rapidly adopting, the U.S. adopting, big countries such as Nigeria and Africa. We got Brazil adopting. We've got a lot of others. But I think the unique aspect of all of this is that we're seeing crypto, and I'm going to just say Bitcoin here, but Bitcoin start to expand faster than the internet. Now, let's slow down here, folks. Bitcoin is expanding faster than the internet. Now, I don't necessarily think that we need to have a full-on collapse of the current system unless we get some backlash or some fight from the current system in order to move to a Bitcoin standard. So let me explain why I think that. Because you guys remember in 2000, right? We had the dot-com boom. Everybody that enabled some sort of internet aspect of their company was able to, see their stock prices rapidly shoot up. But what we didn't see, we saw a little bit of a crash, but we didn't see a Great Depression, everything go to turmoil, right? Granted, we did see some other crashes and everything like that since that advancement, but I don't necessarily believe that we need to see a full-on collapse of the current currency, being the US dollar, in order to move to a Bitcoin standard. If there's a big if there, if it is embraced by the powers that be. Now, they might see that as well, and they're seeing stuff like this right here, where crypto, I use that word lightly. I'd rather be saying Bitcoin, but Bitcoin users here is seeing a massive, massive annual growth. See, they are looking at it starting in 2016 and comparing the two. Here's another chart as well, where it's looking at Bitcoin adoption versus internet adoption from the great website Stacker News. So you could see, if you start in 2014 and look at it comparatively to 1990, Bitcoin is starting to outpace. Now, we shall see where that goes here in the future, because this is just back in 2023. So hopefully we see some more adoption once the numbers come out for 24, and we will continue to see more and more people start to adopt Bitcoin, where I think that will be the case because it's growing faster than the internet. The bankers are seeing it. They're saying, hey, we are losing customers. Jerome Powell and the Fed is saying, hey, we're losing control. He's already been out there saying the quiet parts out loud, saying, hey, we are stealing from our future generations through the inflation. Now, I've heard from little birdies around that Donald Trump thinks that, Bitcoin is the way and is the future. And he's aware that from people, I can't tell my sources here, folks, but I've heard through the grapevine that Donald Trump looks at the success of the Bitcoin price as how the Gen Z, millennials, and younger age group, he believes that's how they look at as the success of the economy, whereas maybe the older generations looked at the S&P 500, and that's how they would determine the success of the economy, where now the younger generations are looking at the price of Bitcoin for that. So I think banks are starting to embrace Bitcoin. I think people around the globe are starting to look at this chart here, seeing the growing adoption of Bitcoin similar to the internet, and they're going to be, jumping on board. I mean, we're seeing the Fed chair now jumping on for Bitcoin, saying that these banks should be doing this. The banks should be keeping a close eye on Bitcoin and everything under the sun, relative to crypto, although this is Bitcoin only. I know we got SPL in the chat going for ETH. I'm Bitcoin only, and I think that Bitcoin is the way, even though Jamie Dimon's out there telling you that there is, Bitcoin is the quote pet rock. And when he was saying that, let's go back to this great video here. When he was saying that the price of Bitcoin was at
trafficking. Those are real use cases, and you see it being used for hundreds, maybe 50, $100 billion a year for that. That is the end use case.
Tokenizing.
Yeah, so when we were saying that, he was saying that it's for tokenizing everything. The price at this time, I know the words on the chat are on there, are covering it slightly, but the price, if you guys can tell beneath that, was at 42,000, right? So today, when we're looking at Bitcoin, we're looking at it at 105,000 here, and we're seeing that price start to, tick up here a little bit. We're almost to the end of January sitting here, and in the past month we're seeing a measly 13.7%, and everybody, the narrative around the internet is Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin's not doing anything. We're seeing just a lull here at 105,000. I mean, are you kidding me? Year to date we're up 12.91%, nearly 13% year to date. We keep just chugging along here as Bitcoin is chugging here. And, Down Under Blues is saying Trump uses all markets to measure success. And I agree. I really think he does. But the key point here is that he wants to keep that younger demographic happy. He wants to keep the younger demographic really looking at how he's been successful as a Republican candidate. And, because historically, the joke in the United States is that if you're a Democrat, or if you're not a Democrat before you're 30, you don't have a heart. And if you're a Republican after 30, or if you're not a Republican after 30, you don't have a brain. So that's generally the joke that you hear in the United States. But with that, I think Trump is really looking at the younger demographic and trying to grab them. I mean, that's why he did a lot of those podcasts and everything else. And I think that's where he really sees this number here. And, he's been welcoming all of the Bitcoin and quote crypto crowd. Now, whether that saying is right or not, I don't know. I mean, obviously it's a financial show here, not super political. But I think that one party was severely hostile towards the Bitcoin industry, and another is essentially embracing it, right? So, but I mean, I think the true power of Bitcoin here is not having your banks as a custodian. It's holding it in self-custody. Now, there are many ways to do this. There's many exchanges to buy Bitcoin, but a lot of these exchanges, they offer the custodian services for you initially. I don't necessarily like that, folks. I think you should just jump right into self-custody right away if you can. And Bitcoin Well helps you do that. You can go to the bitcoinwell.com/green candle and sign up today. It's the only true non-custodial exchange in the United States. They allow white glove service for OTC stuff. If you want to buy 50K or more, you can go to bitcoinwell.com, click /green candle, click that link there. Or if you just want to sign up today. You can join in and join the revolution with me. You can do direct deposit straight from your job directly into cold storage. You could put a percentage of that of your paycheck directly into cold storage. The only way to do that is with Bitcoin Well. And I think that is absolutely outstanding. Great platform. I'm very excited to be working with Adam O'Brien and his team. And I think that you guys should sign up today. You have a chance to potentially win 1 million sats. And maybe in future live streams, I'll have the wishing well here for you so you guys can see. But the wishing well, every time you sign up, you buy a little Bitcoin, gives you a little bit of these well points, and you can flick the coin down the wishing well and potentially win up to 1 million sats. That's $1,050 smackers here right now, folks. So highly encourage that. But let's get to the chat here. As Gio saying, banks should bank. Should banks should assertive Bitcoin? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, sir. So if you want to explain a little bit deeper, but I do think that banks serve a place for certain people, right? So I personally think the future of banking would be something like Custodia Bank, where friend of the program, Caitlin Long, is essentially just going to be a big liquidity provider for a bunch of transactions. So if you want, the Lightning Network, we can get into the weeds of that, but the Lightning Network requires a lot of liquidity and to run a Lightning node, which not necessarily easy for the average person to do. And as Bitcoin gets bigger, the fees get a little bit larger. You need more liquidity. So banks can be the custodian to kind of help run these giant nodes, maybe get a slight fee for that. And that would be kind of the future there, right? So that's where I think banking is going to go in the future. I don't think we're there yet. I think that banks are going to try to be your custodians, as Jerome Powell is lining it out here. And I don't think that you guys should trust them at all, right? I think that, going forward, we need to be very cautious on the players that we're trusting in this Bitcoin space. I think that a lot of them do not have your best interests in mind. And that's why I always encourage those to go into self-custody. So my man, All Night Hider, isn't in the chat today because I'm doing this one a little bit early, but he always says, smoke the like Cheech and Chong. So do that for me, guys. And hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to join the Green Candle Revolution. And thank you to all 150 of you for joining me in this live stream. And see you guys all at the next one.